chatter echoed through the dimly lit restaurant and out into the street as several patrons walked outside, allowing a cool gust of wind and blaring of horns and a sea of other sounds into the building as the door swung open. Yeah, well, I don't know, Peter said as he leaned back into his chair. I'm telling you, Anthony remarked. The therapy's been really good for me. Think you could definitely benefit from something like it. Yeah, Peter replied as he picked up his fortune cookie. I'll think about it. He cracked it, pulling the small slip of paper from its tomb. He stared at the fortune for a moment. Get a good one? Anthony questioned as he checked his phone. Peter continued to stare at the slip of paper. No, then? Anthony asked. Loss is closer than you think, Peter read. That's a bit ominous for a fortune cookie, huh? Anthony replied. Peter set the fortune on the table, his mind wandering elsewhere, but a sudden disturbance disrupted the quiet atmosphere in the restaurant. A thrashing of metal, a blisteringly loud grinding noise just beyond the large windows that lined the entrance of the restaurant, headlights flashing in every direction at once like a disco ball thrown through the air. The men nearly jumped out of their skin as they looked outside. A woman screaming, standing on the sidewalk, a front row seat to utter carnage. Smoke drifted up into the evening air as people rushed to help. Metal covered metal, glass littered the asphalt, and rubber burned its trademark prints into the street. Jesus, Anthony said as he crossed his arms. Peter looked down at his fortune. He quickly reached over and grabbed Anthony's. Hey, what the... Peter cracked it open. Darkness is the absence of knowledge, it read. Suddenly, several nearby light bulbs burst, spraying glass shards across various tables underneath them and onto the floor. Peter was startled, but no one else seemed to notice. He stood up and walked towards the unaccompanied counter. Where are you going? Anthony asked as he turned to watch Peter. Something strange is happening, he mumbled as he pulled a large bowl of fortune cookies out from under the counter. He looked around, waiting to see rushing employees telling him off, but no one came. He cracked another cookie open. Curiosity is human nature, the slip stated. As Peter opened another cookie, his mind raced. Ignorance breeds paranoia. His hands moved faster than his mind could process as he continued to open cookies. That which is left alone will undo. Sirens wailed outside as he opened more. The individual is never greater than the many. Peter's eyes widened as he opened another. Everybody, open your fortune cookies, Peter shouted as he opened another. Desperate pleas go unheard. Frantic, he opened another. It is real, it read. You cannot escape, another continued. Reality is shaped by perception, one slip uttered as Peter looked at the restaurant patrons. Everyone was frozen, completely still in their seats. Anthony sat motionless. Peter looked back to the long hallway that led to the back of the restaurant across from the kitchen. His view twisted and maneuvered down the corridor, slithering through a door that creaked ajar, a deep blue pulsating light crawling from the otherwise dark space. Peter's shoes pressed into the floor as he slowly stepped towards the beckoning light. The noise, the light, the people and things around him slowly disappeared into the ether as his focus sharpened against a clanking and ghostly shallow breathing from inside the strange room. The breathing grew louder as Peter approached. He stopped, a crack beneath him. He looked down to see tan crumbs crushed under his shoe, stepping back to reveal a dislodged fortune slip. He stared at the pearly paper before bending down to pick it up. It rested between his fingertips as he brought it to his face, flipping it to see a final sentence laid out before him. That which is known cannot be undone, it whispered. The tiny fortune fluttered to the ground as Peter approached the door, brushing his knuckles against the cool surface to gently open it. The lights flickered in the restaurant as he stopped abruptly. He thought for a moment about the ticking beyond the door, the hollow gasping sending a jagged shiver down his spine. His curiosity overwhelmed his nerves as he opened the door, vibrant blue light shining across his front and onto the wall behind him. As he stared at the source of the noise, he stood as frozen as the restaurant patrons. It clanked and whirred, a ghostly moaning, vacant whispers and frantic breaths escaping its mechanical body. Peter could do little more than stare at the monstrosity. Flesh draped down the sides of machine, gears and steel embedded within the trapped being. A single yellow eye sank at the edge of the melting face, a black pupil flanked on both sides by hazing blood, drifted to look at the man standing in the door. A low murmur crawled from the creature's mouth, the words dripping with saliva and murky silver liquid. A hint of metal as what looked to be drops of diluted mercury hit and spattered in the dark blue carpet. A good friend will visit you soon. The creature muttered, as a sudden ding filled the room, and a fortune cookie came rolling out of a long, narrow tube connected to what looked to be the monster's neck. Flesh hung on all sides, steel protruding from melting form as it gasped and wheezed. Peter stood in shock, before picking up the previous cookie, cracking it open to reveal the abomination's message. Perseverance is the cornerstone of success, it uttered as another ding occurred, splitting another cookie from the tube. It too contained that previous message. Peter's mind raced in horror as he realized what this was. Kill. 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 The creature whispered as Peter turned and ran from the room, before being grabbed by a frenzied restaurant employee in the hallway, who shoved him back against the wall. Me. The creature whispered finally, before the whirring and clanking of the machinery suddenly stopped, and the frenzied man dropped to the floor. Peter's heart pounded out of his chest as he stepped over the dead man and ran out of the dim restaurant, his mind desperate to purge what he'd experienced.